The recording is on. All right, the recording is on. Welcome everyone. Today is July the 8th, 2024. This is the bi-weekly Model Registry meetings, as usual with updates. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. Typically, we use these bi-weekly meetings to speak about everything that we've been keeping tracking on for the Model Registry Working Group. We have an agenda that I'm going to just reissue in the chat for everyone that wants to take a look or add any points in the discussion. So for today, we have quite, I think, a few points that we can go through. And just a heads up for everyone, before a reminder, we are still using the Google Meet, but eventually we will transition to the Zoom bridge for these recording meetings. This is being done from the lead of the Kubeflow steering committee. So as soon as there will be an update, I'm going to update all the calendar invitation and the actual link to join the call until you will see we can continue to use the Google Meet. For the Kubeflow 1.9 checklist, I was just earlier in the release meeting with Ricardo and the release team. No big update here for our tracker. So in fact, we had been keeping tabs on all the items. I think that well, just discussed with Ricardo, we have already the manifest sync to 021 alpha. It's not the latest version, but it's the one that we tested with RC. So since we have that one for the RC, what I propose to Ricardo is that we keep that one. And anyway, people who wants to test the latest and greatest for Kubeflow Model Registry, what they can do is that if they go to the website, to the Getting Started Component Model Registry installation, this points them to the latest version, not in the latest firm, but in a pinned version as requested by Matthew and other suggestion from the Kubeflow community, so that we have everything sort of like pinned down that people can check out the latest and greatest as needed. There was as well some comments received for the blog post and the slide, and this is already maintained for as far as I understand. Ricardo, if I missed on anything, I think that you or Stefano will let me know. The only last action item that we have for the Kubeflow 1.9 sort of like milestone is to have a tracker for the roadmap for 1.10, but I have already a sort of like an agenda item later for today's meeting with a drafted 1.10 roadmap that we can discuss about. Ricardo, did I miss on anything here?
Nope. You covered everything about 1.9. Thank you.
All right, thank you to you. Okay, cool. So moving on. So if there are any questions or anything, please feel free to either raise your hand or just directly unmute yourself and let me know. So with that, we can move on to the next item. Sorry if I put it just at the top of the agenda, but since we have Eder here with us today, I thought since we didn't have an opportunity in the earlier meeting to give precedence to BFFs and UI. So with that, Eder, if you want to take over and introduce yourself and team.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Eder. I'm working with OpenShift AI at Red Hat. And one of our goals, especially with Model Registry, is to move our work towards upstream. Currently, we have a set of Ys in the ODH, integrated to the dashboard. And we are discussing Ramesh, discussing Mateo. There is a GitHub issue there that we are proposing this to move those Ys and put our development of our Ys for the Model Registry upstream. So in that words, we can benefit the community with we will start with a standalone app for Model Registry as a development, just to speed up our development. You don't require to install everything on the Kubeflow. And as soon as we have a first version, we are looking forward to integrate with the Kubeflow dashboard. And the proposal of the architecture that I did for this is to have the front end that will be client side only and has much as code as possible, and then have a back end for the front end that we call the BFF. There is a layer that will communicate, that will abstract the front end from the Kubernetes to fetch model registries and look up the services, and also to talk with the REST endpoints that the library provide for us. I started this week, I think, 1 month ago, and thank you so much for being so welcoming, because I'm doing the setup for the team join. And now that we are with all the pieces there, Alex and Lucas from my team, we will start to do the work to integrate. Lucas will probably work on on the front end, and Alex will be work with the BFF together with me, so we can expect a few of the PRs from them, and I'm hope to also be able to help them on the review. That's why I'm here. And besides that, I'm also working with Stefano and other members of the Kubeflow community to figure out what are the best strategy for the Kubeflow in overall dashboard, and also how this new development for Model Registry fits in this puzzle. So there's those two things that I'm doing, like some technical that my team is starting to work on with upstream community, and my goal is to push everybody from doing Y in the Red Hat to help with Model Registry, and ideally we have everything upstream. And on the other hand, I'm doing some architectural work with the Kubeflow, with the overall Kubeflow community, to define what is their strategy for the Y. And I'm super happy if you're able from Red Hat, at least from the Y teams, because Matteo and others, there was a great experience already working with the controller and with the backend. We hope to do also all the Y development for Model Registry upstream. I think it could be super beneficial for the community.
Awesome. Thank you, Eder. Also, I noticed the discussion in the CNCF Model Registry Slack for everything UI. So thank you for being active upstream over there. Ramesh.
Yeah, I just want to echo your comment there, Matthew. Thank you so much, Eder, for taking the initiative and driving the this proposal for the model registry. As we were talking, I think I cannot emphasize more, how, I mean, the need for the we need to push this architecture a little bit more on the upstream side across the overall Kubeflow as a proposal, right? And obviously we want to showcase the model registry as is the derivative of that proposal. Hey, here is the implementation of it. There seems to be already, we have seen that there are more interest. Other teams are interested. Already you are working, I know you are working with Notebooks team. The other teams also showed interest in learning the thing. So yeah, I think I think we need to put a little bit more efforts on the upstream proposal side. I think once we get to the proposal and showcase this one, I think we will get a lot more feedback on this. So I'm looking forward for that. And thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's like, I think it'll be super beneficial for the community. The good side from the dashboard, Kubeflow dashboard, is that they don't call this name, but most of other apps are already with a BFF in the front of their APIs. The only bigger difference on this architectural change that instead of having everything packed in the same repo, we are putting the Ys together connected in the repository, or like for the model race, everything be collocated. But I'm sure that in the following weeks, I'm working with this. In the following weeks, we'll be able to have agreement in the community, hopefully.
Okay.
Thank you, Ricardo.
I think once you have I mean, depending upon it, we can go to different communities once you have the proposal and try to cross-sell this thing, once we are past, once we are at a better stage, even with the model, which is showcase it, we can take this as a tour to go into KFP community and say that, hey, show us some small demo or something to them, and so that we can onboard more teams into this.
Yeah, and one logical question: why I work on this proposal? Can the Alex and Lucas start to work on some pull requests towards model registry with their Ys?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's up to you guys how you want to slice this.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have complete autonomy
Perfect.
how to contribute here. I'm sorry, Ricardo, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Just wondering here, in this new UI, in this UI development, is there any draft mockups that are publicly available for users to see? What will be the look and feel of the interface? Yes,
Yeah, I can take this one. Yeah, I can take this one because there's two stages for this. I'm working with Mateo. Mateo is planning the 110, and together with the 110, my plan is also to create a subsection there that will be the roadmap for the Y, basically to break down all the user features, and we can put already the mockups that we had on ODH. That those mockups will be on as a more in a functionality wise, because they still on the pattern fly team. That is the framework that we built at Red Hat. But we are also working in a team that will make pattern fly visually match the material UI. So this will be part of the breakdown, Ricardo. Like I expect Mateo to work have a like for each feature, like VN register models, created register models, to have some Ys, some screenshots of what we have right now in the ODH, with the asterisk that we are going to make this compatible with material in the future. Does works for you, Ricardo? This?
well, I guess. I mean, just asking. Just wanted to see what how the other community users think about this. Well, it's good for me. So let's see if others have any objections or not.
Yeah, and I think it's like just to expand on what Eder was hinting earlier. You see, in the roadmap, sort of like for, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but just to speak briefly, is like we are drafting the 1.10. So what I suggested to Eder is that, of course, here in this bullet point, this I think is like the highlight, one of the highlight for 1.10 that I would like to try to stewards the group to work towards to. But of course, it will be better if with this as the highlighting point, then of course Eder can build on all the GitHub issues and tracker needed directly here in the model registry repo. So for instance, like there will be, I don't know, first just a bullet point to say, hey, list all the registered model in a model registry instance. And then in there can be the mockups if needed, so that we at least keep one high-level tracker for the 1.10 roadmap, and then the UI sub-teams can basically focus on the different aspects at the light level of granularity. So just to briefly expand on what Eder was mentioning earlier. All right. Is there any more questions on UI why we have Eder here with us today, or rather what? Yeah.
Yeah, Mateo, just one thing on this. I'm planning to attend all the calls in the Model Registry. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
So it's not exception that I'm here. As soon as I have a conflict that will be exception, I will be here on the calls.
No, yeah, but the only reason why I mentioned that they're just for a little bit of background, this timing is a bit hard for European folks because it's pretty late, but it was the only slot available remaining for people who wanted to join other Kubeflow meetings. So let's say I'll try to make it that if people cannot attend the Kubeflow model registry very quickly meeting, so this meeting they can sort of like update offline. So speaking of which, just on the second item in the agenda, earlier with Andrea, he cannot attend the meeting, so he left just an update on Slack. So we had a suggestion in the previous meeting from Andrea to further harden the custom storage initializer example of kserve that we have in model registry. And just Andrea was mentioning earlier that he's continuing working. He found some sort of like a strange behavior in the CI for his own jobs there, but it will be investigated further. So let's say there is just continuing work on this the item that is also already included. I want to get ahead of myself. But again, this is something that we included as for the integration blueprint for the 1.10. Ramesh, you wanted to say something?
No.
Okay. Right, no worries. So there is that for this item. And then I think that we have Leo with us today as well. So Leo, I saw that you added some bullets, some bullet point here. So if you want to give the the community some updates, please, the floor is yours here.
Okay, so I like mostly like I finished the code at the draft, so I write the like the draft PR. So and there's someone like helping me review it. But like the most important things I wanted, also I want to discuss is about like do we need to like what kind of test? So like because like for the ML flow, there's like we should have like an instance and also like a storage there. Yeah, I'm thinking of like it's pretty much just I need to like register like preview like image, like put a preview image with the ML flow to somewhere and like and also like in the CI like trying to like ramp up or like compose like ML flow uh like instance to like continue with the test. Yeah.
All right. So thank you Leo, for this update. So is this also related to the question that you had about the S3?
Uh yes, yes.
Okay. So what I was thinking on in the meantime is that if for the testing in GitHub Actions, we are more or less free to do whatever setup that would best suit the needs. So what one potential way is that if we needed to have, say, an S3 instance to make this testing, what we can have similar to other GitHub Actions that we already have present in the Model Registry info is that we can set up a kind server, sorry, a kind cluster server for testing, and then deploy the Minio there, deploy any other ML flow components that we needed, and then have this integration works with that. Dheeraj, you want to add to anything?
Yes, yes. So I'm also like reading like the repos for the like Kserve to see if how they like ramp up uh like kubeflow instance on the GitHub action. Yeah.
Dheeraj.
But like
Yeah,
the code could be reviewed and like could look at the design, but like I will continue work on the test. Yeah.
yeah. I was going to say, ML4 doesn't require Kubernetes anyway, so we could, just start a MLflow instance in the CI somehow, um, in another like Docker container or something, just like kind. Uh, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, which MLflow version retarget and so on, depending upon what the level of integration with MLflow. Um, but yeah, there needs to be we have to be careful about what we are including in the CI integration as these tests become more and more complex. It might just become too much. So there might be like a certain level of like mocking or something that we might have to do just for acceptance, and then maybe more detailed end-to-end tests run in maybe some other workflow. My concern is whether it's just going to become
Uh,
so cumbersome that it takes too long to run the entire suite for a PR.
Right, but if we isolate the integration in the proper places, we can have GitHub Action triggers, for instance, for these only if we are touching on this kind of integration, isn't it? What I'm looking for is that, for instance, like today we have some cases, I think is like as well the example from Lamparelli is like this, where unless you are touching the directories or specific files for that component or component in the mono repo, say, then sort of like those tests doesn't even start. Will that address the concern that you were mentioning, Dheeraj?
Yeah, this is this kind of has to do with the fact that repo's kind of getting complicated, right? You're adding like lots of orthogonal concerns together in a single repo, right? Like the UI is also part of the same repo, and then MLflow integration is also part of it. Maybe there's a if we had the freedom to do it, I would have recommended splitting it out in different repos so that everything builds much faster, and is more.
Like we can use the folder to control like the trigger of the GitHub action.
Are you saying we can or cannot?
I think we can.
Yeah, yeah. We can, but I'm saying that there are lots more and more components being added, which would ideally would have been better as separate repos.
All right, I think it's a valid concern, and as well, it's something that we can keep an eyes on as if the repos sort of like growing. I think it's a bit premature for calling it a problem at the moment, because at least the way that I see that the test mainly work is that the actual bigger problem in general is just having a runner available from the org. So there is that, at least the behavior that I'm observing. Beyond that, most of the test actually runs pretty weak. But it's a good thing to be more maybe diligent in the way that GitHub action are triggered, and maybe just make sure that we're triggering at least the one that we can isolate in an isolated fashion, like with the folders or the file being touched. And then eventually we can ask for to the steering committee if there is a possibility to actually split the repo more in case that this becomes a problem. Sounds like a good draft plan to move forward.
Yep.
Right. Thank you. And Leo, is there beyond the PR that is in review and the thing about testing that we can explore as well offline on Slack and so on? Was there any other item that you wanted to share or that you wanted to ask to the group today?
Not much. It's just a task. I continue like work with I don't know, like I don't know if it's I only know her the GitHub ID of the one I'm working with, so I don't know if she's in the Slack channel.
Oh, you're mentioning for I know that I saw some.
Yeah, like the
Isabella's here. Yeah.
is in I don't know.
Isabella, you want to introduce yourself?
Can like so like I think she's helping me review the code,
Yep.
but
So we have.
I think right now it's good for me. Yeah, I will continue. Like I think I will put more a major focus on the tests right now.
Isabella, if you are talking, you are on mute.
No, I was just typing on the chat. Liu, you can ping me on the Slack channel. It's just Isabella, just like it's here on the meet. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. So thank you very much, Liu, for the updates. I think because I also want to be a bit cautious about time because the last one may take a little. Chanakia, do you wanted to share some update with the? I saw that you added some bullet items here. So if you want to take the stage.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Matteo. So just a quick update. I put in a PR that adds registry group to the MLMD DB schema. So that's one step towards multi-tenancy. And then I started looking into OPA and Rego policies to further implement the next authorization step of multi-tenancy. We're still discussing with Dheeraj for some design strategies and stuff like that. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chanakia, for the updates. Then we don't have Andre here, but we don't have as well. I think that there were some people from the Feast team internally that wanted to maybe join. So maybe we can just sort of like carry over on this one to the next one when the teams and the people who commented on the GitHub issue may be available. So I'm just going to carry over. All righty, so just to as well, this item may be a bit quite some points to discuss. What I've done is that I went through the minutes of the meetings of the previous biweekly, and I've sort of like tried to draft what will be a provisional roadmap for 1.10. So these are the high-level action items that I've noted down. So Kubeflow Model Registry web app, and here I put as well a reference person when I know that already somebody was already hardly working on that one, not to be exclusive, but at least to have a kind of like a contact person that can dispatch if there are any questions or specifics. I've added multi-arch images. This is something that we already have some GitHub issues tracked for it. So I think especially for the Go REST server, it's going to be an ask that we are going to receive eventually for our working group. Then I've noted under MLD related announcements, so this speaks as well to what Chanakya is proposing for multi-tenancy. And as well, we might have some coordination point with the pipeline team. So Ricardo, just a heads up that I think that eventually we may want to discuss if it is possible to have a single instance shared with KFP, or what it would look like in the case of a deployment having a single instance with the Kubeflow pipeline. I've added an item that is more something that I believe we are looking to try to contribute as a Red Hat to the community. Is that what we call internally a shift left, which is a conscious effort to bring as many tests as possible that we are actually doing for our own midstreams to actually to push it upstream as early as possible. I think these will greatly expand on the hardening of the solution. So since testing and security is always a hot topic, so I think these should go into that direction too. We have as well integration and import from other registries. So this is, for example, the effort that we were just speaking earlier with Leo and Isabella, and as well a request that we received from other in the Kubeflow community, and to improve the integration with other Kubeflow components, meaning having something like the example that Andrea is contributing for the CSI blueprint to integrate further with Kserve, but as well, I think that we can work into have integration blueprint with Katib and other blueprints for other integration with other components. Finally, as we had the discussion with the folks from Cisco, I think a while back, so there is going to be some integration proposal of having OCI as a storage solution and integrated with Model Registry. So these are the items that somehow I tried to collect from all the discussions and all the minutes of the meeting notes. And this is, to me, the roadmap that I would like to have sort of like track it down so that I can hand that over, then the GitHub issue link to Ricardo and Stefano that has been asking me about. Is there something that I'm missing? Something that should be differently worded? Anything, question, concerns? So you disagree with Ramesh? You're mute, Ramesh.
Thank you. Only one thing, as I was looking at this one, I worded it a little differently. Is maybe the last one. Maybe should we do like a bringing storage solutions to Model Registry and have OCI as one of the options? I mean, as the option, because we talked as bringing S3 as a default one, or a PVC as storage options, right?
Preferred. OCI could be the preferred option.
Preferred, yeah, it's a preferred, and yeah, I wanted to just yeah, thanks for that.
something like this.
I know we've been having conversations with the HPO team to right. That could be one integrations with the components. Oh, yeah, inside. Got it.
Mhm. In the meantime, Ricardo, I see that you have raised a hand.
Yes, go ahead, Ricardo.
Is the plan to port in the MLMD code to Golang still in, or
Yeah.
you guys dropped that idea?
That's a good question. Yeah.
So one thing that we have right now with the MLMD are the bullet points that I've listed here. So for me, at least, I can see, so I would like to distinguish the scope. Here is what we can realistically do by
1.10.
yeah 1.10. So, and Ricardo, please check me here. Just ballparking, I guess this is going to be February 2025. Since just by looking at how historically Kubeflow has released the minor version. So I just made the count of so say 30 weeks because it sort of like carries over the new year. So I think that this is something that we can have in the roadmap as sort of like a digestible item for 1.10. For rewriting MLMD in Go, I think that it's a bit hardest for me to say, oh yeah, that's totally possible to do for 1.10. Does it make sense?
It does, and that's one other thing I'd like to suggest. Maybe you should not be so specific with your issue to say this is our roadmap for 110. Maybe you could say this is the roadmap for future releases, and then you can, when the release planning for 110 starts, we can create another one with the ones that will be included in 110. I mean, I believe those could be separated issues, and then you can just drop everything that could be nice to have, must have, and something that's not so important to have. Just my considerations here.
Yeah, something like a dot next version and the numbered version.
That's right, and then you can just classify those items you have in the issues like P0, P1, P2, and then of course all the P0 items should be included in the next release.
Mhm. Yeah, just before giving the word to Dheeraj, it's like these are the things that somehow it's already being worked on. So this is why I wanted to have the focus of attention on 1.10 for kind of like a roadmap. I will say I think that this is rather than having two roadmaps that may be confusing for the user, what we can do to onboard your suggestion is that this is also as the sort of like the preamble says, this is what we are starting to think. So I would like to put this one out there, and everything that sort of like as the 1.10 will actually kickstart, we can have the thing that will not be included there have a sort of like being carried over in a roadmap.next, as you were suggesting.
Yeah, that's right. One other thing you could use, and I see notebooks starting to use this, maybe other can comment better. They started to use, they started to create roadmaps based on milestones. So it's possible for GitHub to set up a milestone and say, this is what we're planning for the Model Registry 110. That's what we plan to 111. And that makes things better to organize, I guess.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think that I know it's like, but since we don't have yet sort of like as these bullet point will be moved into their own tracker issue, then we can associate that one with a GitHub milestone. But thank you for mentioning. Dheeraj?
Yeah, I just want to go back to the discussion about rewriting MNMD. Like Mateo said, the goals for this, release roadmap were kind of taken from, the work that we had already done, or, were kind of an extension of the current thing. The Go rewrite would be, a much bigger effort. And I think one of the reasons, why there's some hesitation behind it is initially there would be, a lot of work done just to achieve parity with the current MLMD server as well, right? So, there's a lot of like investment and commitment needed for that to be done. And there are, non-technical challenges with that approach as well. We'll have to get the community behind it. It's not just something that, we can it's not a decision we can make unilaterally. Does that make sense?
Yep. Ramesh.
Yeah, I agree with that, Dheeraj. It's not a decision that we can take unilaterally. Especially, I think we need to bring in the KFP community along with this one.
Exactly.
Right, because obviously there is other vendor, other folks are involved in there. It may be, if it is working as an upstream for other folks, then there may be some resistance in going forward. Then KFP might not move. If KFP, my thinking is, if KFP tomorrow comes back, then we go have this conversation with the KFP team about the integration with Model Registry and so on and so forth, right? Then we come back and say, they come back and say that, no, this is not what we want. We don't want to do that. Then I think in my mind, gets a lot simpler, right? Then we can just go ripping up the whole MLMD altogether and write a much simpler, implementation of going to a database directly from our our REST server, and implement whatever the simple backend that we need, rather than dragging the whole DAG like framework that MLMD currently provides, right? So that's one option there. Let's say if KFP does say that, yes, we wanna go ahead with the model registry, then I think the one exercise we need to do is we need to see the graph of usage from KFP itself, right? I have a sneaking suspicion that there is a lot more in the MLMD that it supports than what KFP actually uses. So those two things probably are not in sync, in my opinion. I could be wrong, totally wrong, but I think that effort needs to be done before we even think about rewriting MLMD, right? It could be that if their usage of MLMD is pretty not too deep and kind of a shallow, then it kind of gives us a better, if they agree, and then it may give us very fast. I mean, if they're using just the same structure as we are, and any integration over the top, they were going directly to the database, that can be left as is. We don't need to do anything. Any direct MLMD, if the footprint is very, very small, then rather than taking an MLMD, it has written as is, and lifting and rewriting it, then what we need to rewrite becomes, I'm hoping that a very small subset of it. Then that's where I think in that case that makes it a lot more simpler, and we can even predict how much time it might take and what's the benefits of it, and then move there. And so I think we do need to do those diligence with the KFP team.
Yeah,
before.
so this kind of assessment or due diligence, I think Ramesh, I agree with you. Like it will give you two benefits. First is like it will assess the sort of like the magnitude of the footprint that we're speaking of. So which of the entities are being used, how much are being used, if there are anything that is actually sort of like augmented or something that is not technically used. And this is for the estimation from a technical perspective. Then as well, it might, if the footprint is actually smaller, then not only it would make it maybe technically easier to think the estimation, but as well would potentially ease out the non-technical decision and more strategic one to sort of like on board on that effort. I think so. I see at least on those two dimensions about what you were speaking of.
Yeah. I think one of us needs to, I mean, maybe, in partnership with Ricardo here, and yourself, Matthew, or Dheeraj, you guys need to take ownership of this and go to the KFP community and start having this conversation. See if there is anybody in that community who is willing to uh, contribute towards this. You know,
Well, to be fair, from the pipeline's perspective, I'm still confused how MLMD evolved within the versions, because V1 MLMD was just optional. In V2, they become required components. And in fact, there's something I need to agree with you. I believe there's much more to do with MLMD within the pipeline's perspective. I mean, they are uh, establishing some artifacts to use in pipelines, but I believe it's just a small subset to track in pipelines. There's much more to do with it, and I don't believe KFP is using all MLMD capabilities. So, um, as as for that, I would say, yeah, we're in the same page. We're still trying to understand um, how much value MLMD brings into KFP. And but the only thing we know is that it's a huge blocker for KFP to use on multi-user. Uh, Actually, multi-user works fine, but multi-tenancy, it's something that's blocked by MLMD because it doesn't implement multi-tenancy. Diraj?
can I add a comment before you go, Diraj?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the I also want you to us to we know right now with the MLMD the way it is, it's gonna get harder for us to support this. We are not doing just for this, right? Fun, so we do need to support our what we are building here. So if we can support it very effectively, I seem like this is a whole. So we do have to have this goal of moving to what you are saying, Ricardo, to something that is we can maintain it. Either we need to get contributors in terms of supporting the MLMD as is, or we do need to rewrite. Yeah, I'm just asking, what's the uh, do we do this together, or we do as both teams we need to make a conscious decision across this, because right now what we have is it seems like at least Model Registry team can support it fully. Go ahead, Dheeraj, I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No problem. Yeah, I was just going to say that, to be the devil's advocate, there might be features that might not be used right now in DSP or in model registry, but they will put they will put in the MLMD service for a reason. So I have a suspicion that we'll run into use cases that require those. So although you can make an argument that there might be parts that we don't have to implement right away, but I have like a sneaking suspicion that we'll need to eventually anyway. But yeah, there are multiple kind of ways to go about this. The option where we completely, get rid of MLMD is kind of harder, right? Because that would require like a lot of work to be done on the KFP side, and that was the reason why in the original proposal I made in September last year, right? I was saying keep the gRPC API around until the REST API or the GraphQL API that I had proposed at that time becomes mature enough that we can get rid of it, uh, get rid of the gRPC, lower level gRPC API, right? So we still kind of need to give DSP or anything else that's using MLMD or will use MLMD kind of a off ramp, right? So I don't know whether it's like a switch that we can just pull and say, oh, now we are not using it.
But that means that you would have to implement a GraphQL API on top of the current MLMD. That's what.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then you are saying
Yeah, just like we are implementing the REST API, right? Whether it's GraphQL or REST, right? Like a high level API and kind of drag the gRPC API along, and then get rid of it.
I mean, if they are my argument there was if KFP is just using the gRPC API to just start with the base CRUD methods for whatever the database backend, not much more than that. Obviously it probably is talking much more than that. I should not make assumption, but that's what I've said. If it's that, then you could do both of what your suggestion, right? You could do gRPC if you rewrite, or even if you rewrite, it's a lot more easier to do that CRUD methods and and provide the gRPC to support.
Yeah, there's some lineage searches, but it's not that complicated. Considering the logic's already there in C++, we'll just have to translate it to a different.
We need to do that estimation of what's the footprint is.
Right.
That's where I'm got stuck on. If one of us can do that,
right,
that would give us a little better picture of, hey,
right,
when should we do that? Should we do the direction you are saying is obviously if it can be usage.
So if we put ourselves in the API users' shoes, right? What would be kind of the threshold? The threshold would be feature parity, right? If whatever alternative API we're proposing, REST, GraphQL, whatever it is, if it can do everything that the current gRPC API can, then they will be willing to switch over. You know what I mean? So we need to build that level of functionality in either the current REST API or new GraphQL API or something if there's enough backing for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I agree with it. All I'm saying is we need agreement between these two teams that's the direction we want to do. We want to assess how deep this is.
Okay.
Then we can take one of the suggestions you make, which one makes more sense, right? If it is a lot deeper, a lot more things we need to implement, then what you're saying, start with a REST or a GraphQL API, as a separate server, and putting on the top of this to off-ramp it as we build upon slowly, so that you can probably route it. Meanwhile, right, that's going to be a long road, but we can decide that.
Yeah, just to wrap up this conversation, right? What I just want to go back to what you pointed earlier too, right? It's getting harder and harder to maintain it. Like we are adding new features, we are adding like multi-tenancy and security and stuff, but it's much harder to do it with the current C++ code base. And we have other sort of like non-language specific issues to deal with too, like multi-arch multi-platform builds and stuff like that. That's going to be harder with that. It would be nice if there was like a single service, single endpoint, single API, and stuff.
Yeah, obviously, if you take, at least from Red Hat's perspective, we need to support it, we can support the way it is, and it's probably will be true for anybody else. I mean, it's probably true for
Exactly.
Kate Feet in the same way.
Yep.
So we do need to solve this thing. I mean, that's no question in right now. How do we do that? How far we go? That's the question. Okay, Matthew.
Yeah, and sorry to be that person because I really didn't want to interrupt the discussion, but I think that we went a bit off topic, but in line with the, of course, Model Registry and Kubeflow pipeline topic. So I really wanted to use all the time possible today, since the conversation was very important and not interrupted. But as we are working now towards the last 5 minutes of the call, I just wanted to wrap it up. And I think that these are good ideas on how to progress further from there. So there is just one. So taking these last 5 minutes, are there any other further comments on these provisional drafted roadmap for 1.10 that we want to account, or otherwise I will start to create the issue, and then of course we can always change course as we may need. So beyond what we just discussed, for the other points, anybody raise the hand or let me know, or otherwise I'm going to click the submit button so that I can give back the link to Ricardo and Stefano from the Kubeflow release team. I'm not hearing anything, so we'll just go and create this one. Okay, Ricardo, you can mention too as well to thank you everybody for your contributions and participation in this discussion. I'm going to send to Stefano the link in the pull request that he already mentioned earlier. All right. So I think, Andre, you joined a bit later. If you wanted, we have the last 3 minutes. If you wanted to follow up on any specific item.
No, everyone. I guess I already discussing this UI for Model Registry, but I mean, maybe we can have a follow-up for this.
Absolutely, and we were just discussing. I think that the conversation that we had was in line with what I saw in the Slack channel, so we can continue offline as well, or at the next Model Registry meetings, no problem.
All right. Yeah, maybe we can do it in 2 weeks and find this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we are going to be putting together a proposal for the upstream for the UI, and
yeah, that sounds good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, as we discussed on the Slack. Yeah.
All right. So in time, I think any last topic that were not in the agenda that anybody wanted to speak to? Or otherwise I can give you back 2 minutes of your time. But thank you everybody for your participation today. It was great to see so many topics and integration of discussions. So really looking forward as we are sort of like now ramping for 1.9 on ramp for the 1.10 and all the points that we discussed in the roadmap and aside the roadmap. So thank you everybody for your participation in the meeting. It's very much appreciated. And okay, I will see you in the Kubeflow community meetings maybe tomorrow or otherwise in 2 weeks. Bye everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.